Today, we're talking about local politics and its relevance to Temple University students. With the Philadelphia mayoral general election coming up, we ask ourselves, are we ready for new leadership and changes that will come along with the new mayor? What are some public issues that should concern college students in the city? We'll also discuss some hot political issues stirring controversy today. Our guests are representatives from the college Republican and Democrat clubs. Let's get on point. Hello, thanks for joining us and welcome to On Point. I'm your host, Chris Abruzzo. On today's show, we'll be discussing the issues and politics surrounding the upcoming Philadelphia mayoral general election in relation to Temple students. To lead the discussion today, we have Chairman of the College Republicans, Travis Unger, and President of the College Democrats, Damian Bauer. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let's debate. Okay, now we'll start with some national economic issues. Over a year ago, the city of Seattle announced that they were going to raise their minimum wage to $15 an hour. It would be a gradual increase over time. The state of Washington already has the highest minimum wage among any state in the United States at $9.32 an hour. This amount is over the federal minimum wage, set at just over $7. While the experiment in the Pacific Northwest is ongoing, the argument against raising the minimum wage is that the amount of jobs for low-skilled workers will decrease, ultimately increasing the unemployment. Now, fellas, what do you think of this? What do you make of this issue? Should minimum wage be increased all around? Should it be left up to the states, nationally? Damien, we'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is that in this country, no matter where you live, if you are in the biggest of the cities or the most rural part of this country, $7.25 an hour is not enough if you work 40 hours a week to maintain any apartment. The median average cost of living in this country is higher than that. So, as we know, the minimum wage is too low as it is. Now, the debate over what it should be is obviously controversial. If you keep it with inflation, it should be $21 an hour, but we're not talking about that. I think that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, like what Seattle has done, will be good for this entire country. And if you look at through history of all the times that we've increased the minimum wage, that's what we've seen. The Congressional Budget Office, I think it's bad if we lie to begin with saying that there will be more jobs when we increase the minimum wage, because the truth is that in the short term, we will probably see a shift where some jobs are lost. That's just something that's the reality. But in the long term, with the increased demand and the amount of money that people will be making now with the new minimum wage, that will bring out, like I said, more demand, and then the more jobs the companies will have to adapt. So in the short term, you could see some negative economic effects to it, but in the long term, it will be beneficial to the most bottom-tier workers in this country. And we've seen that throughout history, so I think we should do it again.
Travis, what do you make of this? What's your opinion?
Well, to start, I don't think the government should be the one deciding what small business owners have to pay employees, or any company for that matter. It's very harmful to these small business owners. And personally, I have a small business. I can't imagine even having to pay $15 an hour, because there's a lot more than you realize in a wage. You have to pay taxes out of it, and then also workers' compensation for a certain percentage of what they get paid. So everything goes up with that too. And also, if it goes up to $15 an hour, it's not going to be a dollar menu at a McDonald's. It's going to be the $2 menu. And that shift in wage was for no reason. It's just more money.
So what do we think is unacceptable? Do we acknowledge that maybe it should increase a little bit, or do we think it shouldn't change at all? I know you probably feel differently based off what you just said, but do you think there should be a gradual increase or something dramatic?
Well, obviously, you don't want to shock the economy by making it $15, like doubling it in a short period of time. It will be incremental. I think over 5 years to increase it by $1 is something that we can agree upon. Like I said, you will have some economic difficulty in the beginning, but every single research that has been done on it has shown that in the long run, we will see an increase in jobs and an increase in people's ability to spend money, which helps our economy.
Travis, what do you think are some of the consequences? You alluded to some of them earlier for a specific example, but what do you think overall that the state could see it, let's say Pennsylvania?
I think, overall, the cost of everything will go up. Rather than trying to raise the minimum wage, I think we should focus on training people to have more skilled jobs and leave the unskilled jobs for, teenagers getting their first jobs and getting real working experience.
How soon do you think we see the city of Philadelphia act on this issue? Damien?
It's hard to say because there are a lot of issues that are affecting the city of Philadelphia, primarily education. I think that the quicker we do it, the better, because like obviously with the initial economic hurdles, getting over them faster would be more beneficial for the city. And the other issue is that if we don't do it, other municipalities will, which hurts us competitively across the nation.
Travis, one last thought. Do you think the new mayor, this will be one of his or her initiatives coming into office?
I think if it's Jim Kenney, the Democrat, it could be an issue. I don't see Melissa Marie Bailey raising the minimum wage.
Okay, excellent insight, guys. Switching gears from financial security to public security, earlier this fall, the issue of gun control was once again brought to the forefront of political discussion as incidents of gun violence threatened schools across the country. And an online threat was made following the shooting in Oregon that a similar incident would take place at an unspecified university near Philadelphia. This sparked fear across the city, causing Temple University officials to take precautionary measures. Do you guys think that Philadelphia or Temple specifically took the appropriate measures? They didn't cancel classes, they didn't shut down the university, but they did bulk on security that we saw all over campus. Travis, I'll start with you.
I think Temple had the right approach. Canceling classes would make these people winners, and if people like this keep winning, then there's just going to be more threats and threats for no reason. More security on campus, there's nothing wrong with it.
Damien, what do you make of it? Did Temple do everything they could?
I think that to cancel classes would have been going too far. I mean, to say that any threat isn't legitimate is a very problematic thing, especially in today's climate with what's happened across the nation. But to cancel classes and then say that students wouldn't be out on campus anyway, I think is a bit difficult of a pill to swallow. I think the campus bringing in extra security was what the appropriate action should have been. It shows that they're very dedicated to keeping us safe. But I do think that like canceling classes or doing anything more extreme than that would have been a little bit of an overreach.
Now, gun violence and gun laws have been an issue across the country, as I mentioned earlier. Do you see politicians adjusting their approach on how they want to on how they would like to tackle this issue? Damon?
So, to start, I think it's important to mention that you have two different approaches. The GOP presidential candidate Jeb Bush referred to it as stuff happens, whereas Barack Obama had to make 15 speeches on mass shootings in his 6 years or 7 years in office. The other thing is that this isn't something that occurs globally. If you look at developed westernized nations, the United States is the only one that experiences this on a periodic scale, and I do think that we've become very numb to it, and that's very concerning to me. And we want to talk about like what we should do. It's a very difficult thing to do because both sides are kind of moving more towards their base, whereas our response, I think the most basic thing we can agree to is that currently Congress doesn't put the money out there to fund this. So if like you can ask professors on Temple's campus that research health that deal with gun violence if they can get money from the government easily, and usually they can't. The Congress has made this very difficult. So at the very least, I think we can make funds available to put research into what we think works and what doesn't work. And when we get that empirical data, we can move forward with that. But in today's climate, you can't even do that. So I think it's really problematic how our politicians have approached it, and I think it's especially troubling knowing that we are the sole country that is developed and westernized where this is something that happened several months.
Travis, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think with respect to the Congress doing more background checks for guns, we've seen time and time again after some of these incidences, these people got through the cracks anyway. So the main focus should be focusing on mental health in the U.S., like Damien said. It's just not the sexy issue to most people. So.
Okay, one last point on this topic. I just want to wrap this up. In the future, universities, will they handle it kind of like how Temple did, or would they add anything to it? What do you think, real quick?
I think Temple is at the mercy of what the state, the city, and the federal government want to do. The state just recently passed a law that made it so Philadelphia can't pass any gun legislation that doesn't agree with the state. It's being challenged in court, but when things like that happens, it really stresses governments at all levels, and especially universities. So I think what Temple is doing is a good thing to do. What they can do more, I don't think that we should live under some type of like military state where we constantly have every corner patrolled. I feel like that's a bit extreme. I would like it if at the very least we can agree to sit down and research this issue and move forward with it there.
Travis, quick thoughts?
Just Temple's response was where it should be, but like Damien said, we can't have a militarization on campus all the time. It's something that we must move forward from.
Okay, well, we heard what these two guys had to say. Earlier, we spoke with Patricia Amberg-Blyskall, a Temple political science professor, who shared her thoughts on the subject. Let's have a look.
Most cities spend a lot of money on education, K to 12. Obviously, not enough money in many minds, but that is a pretty significant piece of our budget. It's really important for us to have strong public schools. Without strong public schools, young people who do start families don't stay. So the community is always losing talent, losing opportunities, whether it's personal safety, jobs, or the community at large. I would hope all of those issues would be important to Temple students. All of those great differences across our community, where does that get worked out? But in politics, in the political process. But what's the key piece? You need to participate. November 3rd, not just the election for mayor, but city council, right, which is critical. And then also, first time since 1704, 3 vacancies on our state Supreme Court. So there's some really significant issues that could come in front of the state Supreme Court. So how do you feel about the death penalty? How do you feel about workers' issues? And what I would encourage students to do is to go to your weakness. So if you find yourself really leaning one way, left or right, whatever way that is, force yourself to immerse yourself in the opposite, just to understand issues, perspectives, and things like that. So you become a more educated consumer.
Now, we heard Professor Amberg-Blyskall touch on a lot of things, but I would just like to get a few of your reactions on education specifically. She hinted at it earlier. What do you think of the education climate here in Philadelphia itself? Damien?
Mm-hmm. Pennsylvania has a constitutional obligation to support and give a fair and good education to all of its students. And I think that for a long time now, not just in the last 4 years, the state has really failed to do that. And it's passed the burden on to Philadelphia, and they told us that we've been mismanaging the schools, which is concerning because the SRC, which runs our schools, is run by Harrisburg. So what they claim to be our fault is an organization that the state runs. So when you talk about funding for education, education's really that core issue that really stems off to everything else. So the lack of fair funding for our schools has been really concerning. And in Philadelphia, given the climate that we're in, it's a very high poverty area. If you can't give someone a good education, how do you expect them to succeed not only in the city, but the state, the country, even globally? So the battles that are being done in Harrisburg right now are insanely important, and to not take the time to educate yourself and what both sides of that, the argument is, I think, is a real injustice to not only yourself, but the children who go through our school system. So I think it's incredibly important to look at what's happening and get yourself involved.
Travis, what do you think? What do you make of the professor's take on education and the political climate?
Education is obviously very important to Philadelphia, but the solution is not just to throw money at it, and we haven't really heard any solutions other than raising the budget for education. Obviously, it has to be well funded enough, for new books, paying teachers and everything, but we also have to take a deeper look at some of the problems in schools, such as when children go home to a broken household and how that affects the school district.
Okay, so right now, as we see it with Philadelphia's situation, do we see it progressing forward? Damien, what do you think?
I would hope that one of the things that Governor Wolf has proposed in his new budget is to increase the share of school districts' budgets that the state covers from, I think, 33% to 50%. I think that's a really important first step. It frees up money for school districts across the nation. And the other thing is that Governor Corbett, to his credit, put through a program that was bipartisan. It was the Basic Education Funding Commission in the state. They just released their report in June 2015 where they look into how to get money equitably distributed. Because there is a money problem. There's other issues that are a part of it, but obviously the money comes down to the core. And fair funding is something that's really important. We rank at the bottom of that in the country, so that's something to look into.
I don't mean to cut you off, but Travis, we have to head to commercial break real quick. Do you have any thoughts?
No.
Anything else that you'd like to add? Okay, well, on that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll dig deeper into students' participation in local politics. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
What do you think it would be like to teach? Chances are, you have no idea. Teachers today are breaking down obstacles, finding innovative ways to instill old lessons, proving that greatness can be found in everyday places, and that you don't need to be famous to be unforgettable. That's what it's like to teach.
Welcome back. Philly Mag reported last May that voter turnout in the mayoral primary election was at 27% compared to 77% in 1971. Some would say most people, especially college students, are not as aware of local politics as they are aware of national politics. Many students ask themselves why they should be concerned with who our next mayor is or how certain policies and issues can affect them. On Point's Shannon Hurley went out onto Temple's campus to ask students what they thought about all of this.
I'm out here on campus asking students what they know about the upcoming election and how they feel local politics affect them as students here in Philadelphia.
I don't think students, especially here in Philadelphia, really care about the politics going on here because they feel like it doesn't affect them directly.
I feel like there are definitely people that are involved in it. I'm not one of them because, I don't know, I'm just not really into the whole politics thing.
I believe that students aren't involved enough because I haven't seen anything about the new election and I should have known about it.
I wouldn't say students are heavily involved in politics. I think a lot of us just kind of, we're going through the motions, we're in school, that's kind of what we're focused on.
I think students are somewhat involved, at least aware of larger elections that are going on.
The political climate in the United States is very much, everyone knows about voting for president, but not a lot of people really vote for local government, which is the most important issue because local government and state government really decides a lot of the things that people care about.
Mayoral candidates don't do enough to get involved with the younger population. I mean, for example, think about how many college campuses are out here. The candidates haven't really come to any of them.
Absolutely, they can do more. I haven't seen any advertisements or anything.
I think just one way that students could participate more in just local politics and events is keeping your eyes open for things that are going on, seeking to get active in certain movements that are important to you.
It's all about just doing basic research on your own, and I'm sure there's a bunch of political orgs here on campus as well that they can just ask. It's all about just asking, being curious, and you can find whatever answers you need.
It seems like a lot of students don't participate in local politics. How and why should they become more involved? Chris, back to you.
Thanks, Shannon. Damien, I'll start with you. What do you make of these student reactions? You're a student, I'm a student, Travis is a student. What do you think of all of this?
So there's a saying that all politics is local, and that's true. A lot of people know about what the federal government does. They pay the most attention to the federal government, but the truth is most of the things that Congress does doesn't truly affect your day-to-day life. If you want to find something that's closer to home, you have to go down to the state level and then even more to the local level. Like if you're worried about safety walking down the streets, that's something Philadelphia handles. If you're worried about where students live on campus, the zoning laws are decided by Philadelphia. The football stadium that we want to build is being negotiated in City Council. So there's a lot of reasons to be invested with what's happening in City Council, which is literally right down the street. You can go there. When you want to talk about like low voter turnout, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of students here think politics is a boring thing. They're not very interested in getting involved. They think it's a very dry topic to begin with. And a lot of students here aren't that well vested into the community because they come from different areas. I think there are problems, obviously, and to get involved, there are a lot of organizations on this campus that deal with it. I mean, Travis and I represent the two biggest ones, and we work really hard to get students in with the people that they want to get with. We try to bring in people in. But, I mean, if you're truly concerned about what goes on in your day-to-day life and what happens with your next-door neighbors in your communities, it's not Obama that's going to affect that. It's the next mayor or Mayor Nutter currently.
Travis, do you think this is a matter of just ignorance on our part as young adults, or is there a deeper silver lining to all of this?
I would definitely have to say it's mostly our ignorance. Us here, we're pretty involved in the process. It's understandable that college students are busy and they might not want to get involved, but they should at least look at the issues and understand why it's so important to at least get out and vote at the very minimum.
What do we think happened? Because decades ago, people were aware of this, or more aware than they are now. Is it just headlines? Is it the media? What do you guys think, Travis?
I would say it's a political climate in the country right now. People see a divided Washington, and it's very partisan right now, and people don't necessarily want to get involved with that.
Damien, do you think the candidates for mayor can do anything about this, or what do you expect to see from them? Can they be more vocal about their candidacy to college students?
I think that from like the Democratic point of view, the Kennedy campaign has been a little light on reaching out to college campuses. We haven't heard very much from them ourselves, but the candidates, I mean, the general election in Philadelphia it's different than it usually is. It's a little harder for people to get involved with the general just based off of how the city's electoral politics are set up. But obviously, it's something that's on everyone's part. I mean, the candidates, it should be their responsibility to reach out to the youth because they want the youth to stay. Like, they can't just come into this city and then get the education and leave. I mean, it's a very valuable resource that you could reach out to and get more, so it obviously helps the city. So yeah, I mean, the candidates should be doing more to reach out to college campuses. They should be very willing and very welcoming to come here and engage with us.
Do we also think that students maybe were caught up in classes and extracurricular activities, and some of us have on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs? Is it a student issue or at all, or is the responsibilities, or should I say, the candidates, is that where all the accountability should go?
It's a mixture of both. I know that both candidates have had debates here on campus. Melissa Marie Bailey, the Republican, visited the Temple College Republicans, and they do what they can. Whatever events they have on campus, they're not very well attended. So the issue can't strictly be on the candidates. They're making an effort to reach out to us. It's just some of us are choosing to ignore them.
Okay, now Damien, you're the president of the College Democrats here at Temple University. What are some ways that your organization stays involved in the community to really get your message out there?
So the number one thing we do is we try really hard to get a social media message out there continuously. I think we've done really well this semester in particular and in past semesters. We try to bring in as many people as we can to come speak to us. We had Lindy Lee, who's a candidate for the 7th Congressional District. She came to speak to us. We've had Fran Nelms, who's a candidate for the 170th Legislative District, come speak to us. We've had representatives from McGinty's Senate campaign, SESTAC Senate campaign, and Kevin Dougherty, who's running for the Supreme Court. They've all come in, they've all spoken to us. I worked really, really hard to get students that are interested in internships to get those internships. I think this semester we placed like 8 or 9 of our members with campaigns that they're interested in working with. And that's something that means a lot to me because these campaigns really need the help. And if we can facilitate that type of arrangement between student to campaign, that's something we take a lot of value in. The other thing is, like, we hosted a debate watch party for the first Democratic debate. We had over 100 people come out. It was one of the most successful events that we've ever had as an organization. So stuff like that, like bringing people in to have the conversation and make them aware of things that are happening, is something we take really seriously.
Travis, what are some ways the college Republicans stay involved?
We are very active in Philadelphia politics. For example, we work with the Republican City Committee, and each year, whoever the chairman of the Temple College Republicans is, they appoint them to be ward leader in that ward. Most people probably have no idea what a ward is, unfortunately, but it's the best way to be involved at the community level, not just with Temple, but with the local community. And you know, it starts off civic associations and stuff like that. And also more on campus, you know, we have weekly meetings, you know, we try to table every semester, as well as we make sure that our members are getting involved in volunteering and interning different places, whether it's for a candidate or for the party. We always make sure we're out there.
Now, if folks at home would like to get involved in both of your organizations, one or the other or both, how can they contact you or attend a meeting? Do you have a Facebook page?
We have a Facebook page and we have Twitter, and we also have a website which is on our Facebook page and our Twitter. We have a really good response time for anyone who drops messages. All of our events are at our events and our general meetings are advertised on our Facebook page and our Twitter. We have an email address, so you can get all this information on Facebook.
And what's the web address?
The web address is templecollegedemocrats@weebly.com. We try to update that as often as we can, especially with internship opportunities. We meet every Tuesday at 6 o'clock in I think it's either 200C or 200A. It flips back and forth in the Student Center. And we're welcoming to anyone who wants to come. You don't have to be a Democrat.
And the Republicans?
Like Damien said, we're on Facebook, Twitter. We have a website. The website's templerepublicans.com. And our weekly meetings are every Thursday from 6 to 7 in Tuttleman room 306 for the rest of the semester.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's all the time we have for today's edition of On Point. Make sure to tune in to TUTV on Comcast Channel 50 and Verizon Fios Channel 45 on Tuesday, November 3rd, starting at 8 p.m. for extensive live TUTV coverage of election night and the results. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.